Happy Eclipse Day. I'm calling to order this meeting. It is 1:31 PM. As a reminder, please turn off cell phones and limit any background noise. If you are on Zoom, please mute yourself and leave all questions to the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Laura. I'm gonna do roll call now. When you are called,
Calling
say
to
you're
order this-
present and state if you are with an organization and give a brief introduction of who you are and a description of yourself. I'll start with myself, Cynthia Basco. I'm present. I am the vice chair of the ADA Advisory Committee. And I'm a 50-year-old woman, white woman with short brown hair. And today I'm wearing a shirt, V-neck long sleeve, white stripe shirt. And I am an advocate and I do outreach for GDB, which is Guide Dogs for the Blind, and also Second Sense. And sitting next to me, I have my beautiful guide dog from Guide Dogs for the Blind. She's joining me today. So next on roll call is Laura Saltzman.
Sorry, I'm Laura Saltzman. I am a chairperson for the committee. I'm a senior policy analyst with Access Living. I am a white woman in her 30s. I'm wearing like a red flannel dress. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Laura. Sarah Luna.
Present. Hello, I'm Sarah Luna. I represent the National Federation of the Blind of Illinois. I am a Afro-Latina female in my mid-20s with brown curly hair, white shirt, and a very colorful scarf today.
Thank you, Sarah. Barbara Padilla.
Hi, Barbara Padilla. I'm an accessibility specialist at LCM Architects. I'm a white woman with dirty blonde hair, and I'm wearing all black today.
Thank you, Barbara. Mary Abramson.
Hi, I'm Mary Abramson. I am present, obviously, and I'm visually impaired. I'm a rather short white woman with short brown hair, and I'm here representing people who are blind and visually impaired. And I'm especially interested in advocating for those of us who have no vision, because a lot of the accommodations seem to concentrate on folks with partial vision.
Thank you, Mary. Doreen Bogus.
Present, and I am here representing LPD, the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, for the city of Chicago. And I'm got lighter, fair skin, blondish, various shades of blonde, etc. Some white and some gray mixed in hair, pulled back, and I'm wearing a maroonish colored top and a gray skirt.
Thank you, Doreen. Sandra Fernandez has an excused absence, so she's not here. Dr. Delphine Labby.
Hi, present. I'm Delphine Labbe. I'm from the University of Illinois in Chicago in the Department of Disability and Human Development. I'm a white woman in her 40s with brown hair. I have glasses. I'm wearing a pinkish shirt with a little feather, white and black, and a gray jacket.
Thank you, Delphine. Johnny Gonzalez. Johnny Gonzalez here.
He's on mute.
I am here.
Oh.
I am here. My name is John Gonzalez. I'm 50 years old. I'm male, Hispanic. I have no hair on top of my head nor on my face anymore. I represent veterans, and currently I work for a congressman. I'm a full-time student at Purdue University studying more business. And I'm wearing Eclipse glasses.
It's
ready.
Johnny.
Yes.
Okay, up next are three new members that we have. We're excited that you're part of the ADA Advisory Committee. As with the rest, please give a brief introduction of yourself. Lincoln Edwards.
Hello, Lincoln speaking. My name is Lincoln Edwards. I'm a cisgendered black man in his late 20s with a black t-shirt, glasses, and cornrows that are very frizzy. I'm representing the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, where I work as an associate planner. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thanks, Lincoln. Giselle Nunez.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I am Giselle Nunez. I am a professor slash faculty member in the Communication Sciences and Disorders program at St. Xavier. I am a Latina, and I am wearing a baseball shirt with the Chicago flag on it in long brown hair.
Thank you, Giselle. Jada Thompson. Jada here. Jada is absent. Up next is our CTA facilitators, Irma Gomez Fierro. She's the ADA manager and CTA facilitator.
Thank you. Yes, so my name is Irma Gomez Ferrer. I'm the ADA Compliance Programs Manager. I am a light skin Latina. I'm currently wearing a orange sweater with a white t-shirt. And I'm also a wheelchair user.
Thank you, Irma. Elsa Gutierrez, CTA Vice President, Schedule and Service Planning.
I'm Elsa's mentioned. I am a olive color Latina with short brown hair, wearing a white jacket and a floral blue and gray shirt, and I have glasses in my mid or early 50s.
Thank you, Elsa. Molly Poppy, CTA Chief Planning and Innovation Officer.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Molly Poppy. I am the Chief Planning and Innovation Officer here at CTA. I am a white woman in my mid-30s wearing a green jacket.
Thank you, Molly. Okay, we have 7 people, which make quorum. Does anyone have any disability-related announcements they would like to share?
I guess I can share one, just for folks who are aware, like maybe not like Access Living. Our building was closed for several months due to water damage. We will have an open house on May 2nd. If you'd like to come by, yeah, it's designed specifically to be a bit more of an accessible building, but folks, 1, it is open again, and 2, if you want to come to our open house, May 2nd. Anyone? It is me now. Next it's approval of the January 8th, 2024 minutes. The minutes were sent to members prior to the meeting. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve the January 8th, 2024 meeting minutes as written? Motion. Delphine has motioned. Second. Oh, Barbara seconded it. Can I have a vote? Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstains? No. All right, we have that motion passes. Meetings approved, or minutes approved, sorry.
Okay, Irma, is there any comments available?
We did get a request for 3 in-person public comments. Is there anyone here that would like to present on public comment? Trudy Leon, are you here? Are you present? Bill Morden, are you present? And Tyrone. No public comment.
So now we move to our presentations. The first presentation will be on the All Stations Accessible Program, ASAP update presented by Steve Masheri, Vice President of Capital Construction. And from CDOT, Mark Walsh, Global Director of Tech Design, Principal, and Mike Love, Project Manager.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Stephen Masheri, Vice President of Capital Construction. I'm a male, white, mid-40s, slightly balding brown hair. I have a striped shirt, gray and blue, as well as a dark blue tie on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Walsh. I'm the principal at Perkins and Will, the architectural designers of the Damon Green Line Station. I am an early 50s white male with short-ish curly brown and more gray than I'd like to admit to, wearing a white shirt and a brown tie.
Good afternoon. My name is Julian Silva. I'm with the City of Chicago, Department of Transportation. I'm Hispanic, Latino, also early 50s, wearing a blue shirt and blue sweater.
I'm Michael Lev from Trans Systems. I actually need to defer to Kelly, who will introduce herself next. She's going to be making the presentation, but I'm Trans Systems project manager. I'm a white male, 49 years old, much like Mark, more gray hair than I'd like to admit, wearing a gray t-shirt today.
Hi, I'm Kelly Pledger. I'm an architect with Trans Systems. I'm a white woman in my late 30s with long blonde hair, and today I'm wearing a purple shirt.
All right, with that, we'll get going with the presentation. The agenda for today is be giving a brief overview of the All Stations Accessibility Program, is followed by the program phasing. We'll be talking about stations by rail line, and then also doing a brief touch on stations that are currently not accessible by rail line. Next, I'll be giving an overview of projects that we currently have going on, as well as projects that are coming up on the horizon, and then other ADA initiatives. Once I'm complete, I'll turn it over to Julian and his team to talk about the CDOT projects. So the ASAP program is CTA's initiative to make all stations completely accessible within the next 20 years. We're well underway with this project over the last couple of years, so we're really excited to see we're currently progressing and we're also coming on the horizon. The part of the program is not just for elevator accessibility, but also to handle all ranges of impacts, which include physical, sensory, and cognitive abilities, to make sure that these stations are used by all passengers provided by CTA. We currently have 42 stations that are inaccessible, that are included in the ASAP program. And at the conclusion of the program, all 162 stations will be either elevators will be replaced or rehabilitated. Program budget for this for the ASAP program is $2.1 billion. We have broken this project up into 4 phases. Phase 1 is currently valued at $467 million, which is fully funded. Phase 2, we currently have funded in a value of about $234 million. In addition, we have a system-wide elevator replacement program, which is funded up to $37 million to date. Phase 1 work we're planning to have all of that work completed by the end of 2025. Phase 2 work will start in 2026 and go through 2028. We'll be revising this program, which we recently published in 2024, as funding does become available. So we may be shifting funds around to as money becomes available. As the program is updated, we do update the plan on CTA's website. The link here on the feed and the slideshow does have the most latest plan. This slide here is a visual breakdown that we've used previously that shows how we've broken the ASAP program in 4 separate buckets. Phase 1 is currently fully funded, which is very exciting. 3 stations on the Blue Line, 1 station on the Lake Street branch of the Green Line, 1 station in the loop that is being led by our friends at CDOT, and 4 stations on the RPM Phase 1. Phase 2 is 5 stations on the Blue Line. 3 of them are currently funded. 2 more stations on the Lake Street branch of Green Line, Oak Park and Ridgeland, and then North and Clybourne. Phase 3 and 4 are, and in the future, we're still aggressively chasing funding for those as well. So talking about Phase 2, the Phase 2 has 3 stations that are currently all, we've received grants, which is all on the Blue Line, which is Irving Park and the Kennedy, Belmont, Blue Line subway, as well as Pulaski on the Congress branch. Once these stations are complete, the Blue Line will be fully accessible from O'Hare through Western. And then this will also be the 2nd station that we've done on the Congress branch. We also receive federal formula funds for the 2 Green Line stations I previously mentioned. And when those 2 stations are complete, the Green Line will be fully accessible. I'll run through these slides briefly. Currently, 103 of the 145 stations are currently accessible. We have various percentages that we've shown on a regular basis. As stations come online with the elevators, we'll be updating this chart. Here we have stations broken down by line. Currently, we're showing what stations are funded, which currently we have 6 on the Blue Line. The next slide shows the remaining lines where we have 3 on the green, 1 more in the loop, and then 4 more on the red line. Phase 1 station overview. These are projects that are currently right in front of us. Racine Blue Line Station is currently under construction. We're really excited. We're actually going to be setting station house steel at the end of the month under a line cut. So we're really excited to get that station coming out of the ground. We're doing that in concert with track work that we did last year. At the same time, Austin Lake, that work, we just NTP got the contractor notice to proceed. We're expecting to see groundbreaking in that project May of this year, and then have that work be completed by end of the year, early 2025. California, Milwaukee, that station, we just got the final design package is coming in later this month, when we're expecting to have contract started end of the year, and then have that work finished up by the end of 2025. Montrose Blue Line Station, we're into the middle. That's also on the Kennedy. That work we're expecting to have start in the middle of 25 and start in the middle of 26. Also doing some collaboration with IDOT as they're doing a little bit of road work in the same area. So we have to play nice in the sandbox there. So that could be an interesting coordination piece. And then last will be State and Lake Elevated Station, which we're expecting to have bids open very shortly. Phase 2, we have Belmont Irving Park on the Blue Line. We're currently negotiating for the design for those packages. So we expect to see that work starting in 2026 and wrapping up at the end of 2028. Those 2 projects will be going on simultaneously. We're packaging those together. And then the last.
Could you speak a little bit slower?
I apologize. I'm almost done. Pulaski Blue Line Station. We're expecting to get the planning and design documents out to have work start in the middle of 2026. And the last 2 Green Line stations, we're expecting to have construction starting late 2025, go through middle of 2028. Next few slides here are just some visuals of the stations. The top left photo is a rendering of the recent entrance to the Blue Line Station, which, as I previously said, we're expecting to have done by end of 2024. I think next time we will convene, we'll have a couple of photographs of some work coming out of the ground, which are always more exciting than renderings. The same would go for Lake Street, Austin. This is a beautiful rendering, which we're expecting to have start. This entrance will actually close while the station is under construction, but we're going to be using auxiliary entrance to maintain the station to be open for customer use. That work will also be done by the end of 2024. So a question that came up at last quarter's meeting was about benches. So I wanted to bring out a quick visual of what the benches that we're putting over at the Racine station. So we try to find the balance of functional, something that's easy to maintain, but also meets the ADA requirements, guidelines. So these benches here, we will be having currently 4 benches on the platform. That's for our current design guidelines. They're about 3 feet tall, and they will have a back on them, so people can rest on them when they're being used. We have them, they're spaced out in a way that they don't clutter up passenger use, but to be closer towards the end. You know, Racine is a pretty long platform, as well as now we're going to have an elevator, you have a walkway. So there'll be a long, way to transverse from the accessible station house to where you board the train. So those benches are typically placed more towards the end, so they're a little easier to get to. So we currently will have 4 benches. And then we also have windbreaks with the heaters, well, 3 of those on the platform. And that's the typical quantity we have for our design guidelines. That was just a little point from last time. If there's questions on that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about that.
Good question.
Yes.
This is Doreen.
Yes, sir.
The question that I had, the benches, I know that one of the questions about that was there not being enough of benches at different stations. Were the amount that you chose for, was that the initial amount, or did you up the amount based on the feedback from this committee?
That is the initial amount that we have.
Just curious.
Previous design. What we can do is we can monitor passenger use after the station's open, and if it's something that we need to increase the quantity, this is something we can definitely consider.
Okay, thanks.
Moving to stations that are a little on the horizon, we have a couple of new renderings here for California, Milwaukee. The top photo shows more kind of a drone view. You can see there's 2 elevators that are right off of California, Milwaukee entrance. And then the lower visual shows of looking into the station house at street level. While we're doing upgrades to the canopy and installing 2 elevators, we are preserving the historic facade. So that's something that we're closely trying to be considerate of. At the same time, we're going to be installing an auxiliary entrance at St. George on the far end, so that we're able to expedite work and minimize customer impact while work is going on. Next slide is the Montrose Blue Line Station on the Kennedy. So here we're using the same building footprints, but we're going to be threading the needle with putting in 2 elevators, one on either side of the bridge. The bridge was recently completed by IDOT during COVID, so we'll have a new bridge, a new with busway, as well as a new fully ADA station. So we'll be redoing all architectural finishes, with replacing the glass, but also keeping that initial historic facade that we have from the station, as well as replacing the canopy for weather protection. That's all I have for the ASAP program. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
A question. Sure. And maybe this is for a different section, but in terms of the percentage of accessible stations, like we know sometimes the elevators go down, sometimes they go down for like more significant periods of time. I was wondering if it'd be possible, when considering like percent accessible, to factor in when those stations might technically have elevators, but like part of them is not accessible because when there's like significant.
Sure. So if you're looking for like the capital planning, so if there's something, so there's a longer outage, I can definitely report that to you.
Yeah, great.
Sure.
And then, yeah, I think I just wanted to, if like when there are stations, when there's a number of people, if we could like consider adding more benches, I think that would be great.
For sure. I know we try to take it into account that the amount of furniture, but also passenger flow. You put furniture there, it gets a little bunched up. But it's something we definitely look at. The nice thing with furniture, it's a lot easier to add a bench than like an elevator. So we find that there's a large uptick that's a pretty easy add-on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you, how do you, it's Delphine speaking, how do you look into that usage? Are you planning to survey for the new racing, like, I don't know, having a short survey for the new users when it's reopening, QR code, whatever, that people scan? Like, how do you monitor that? How do you know people?
A lot of time. That's a really good question. We don't have a full policy on how we would look at that. When we open up a new piece of infrastructure, we have people out there to make sure that everything is working properly. For example, we make sure we have staff on call or workmen on call to make sure the elevator works. One of the biggest, challenges that we'd have is if we say, hey, we're going to open a station with an elevator, and then it goes down. So for a short period of time, we have kind of not an all hands on deck, but we have a near constant presence to make sure that the elevator is running on a regular basis. We can supplement that to make sure that we can monitor crowding. Sometimes we'll do that for large events to make sure that if we're seeing that is there enough furniture there and we need to increase that or not. So that's something that we can formalize, and I can present that back to you the next meeting.
Thank you.
One last thing over here during, not so much directed towards you, but, sorry, any of the CTA, areas on the CTA where complaints are tracked or where, specific items are surveyed, can available seating while waiting for buses and trains be added to the list of items so that it's, if people have, when people, so that can be an area that can actually be like monitored in terms of like how much, comments you get about that.
Hey, Doreen, it's Molly. So the market research team, we've been looking to continuously expand our questions. We do ask questions about available seating. We typically ask questions about available seating on a bus or on a train. But we also have started to do some follow-up questions about seating at stations and also seating at bus stops. So we'll look to where we can plug that into our sort of regular survey cadence that we're doing, where we ask questions of riders sort of about their amenities. We'll look to add that as part of some upcoming surveys that we have.
Right, because we definitely do not want it to take away from or get confused with the surveying of available seating, especially priority seating on buses and trains. But it's still, especially with new schedules, and I know the new schedules are just determined by ridership. And it does seem that, there is a longer wait between buses and trains more recently. And so that is another factor that might come into play more often now than before.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
This is also, I also wanted to add, we did get some feedback that we needed a bench at the Addison Brown Line station. And we went and looked at the platform level to see where the benches were positioned, and another one was added based on that request. So we go out, if we receive feedback, we go out, we assess the platform, see where the bench is, and then at that point, we added another bench because of the distance.
And the best
between there. That was the Addison Brown Line station.
Got it. And the best place to provide that feedback would be your CTA or online.
Correct. Either 188 your CTA or our feedback email. We receive all that and then it's sent to the proper department. That department then follows up for the feedback provided.
Thanks.
If we could move to the next one, and definitely need to.
It's 2:00, so we should.
And it's getting dark out.
Yes, so I am taking the prerogative of saying we are going to break for about 15 minutes so that we can all go experience the eclipse downstairs. So we will pause the recording, we will pause the meeting, and we're gonna come back in 15 minutes for the eclipse. If you do not have glasses with you, you cannot look at the sun. I need you not to go outside. We do actually have a few up here that our court reporter was kind enough to provide.
I'll just stay right here.
It is beautiful too. It is beautiful.
I'm gonna guess.
At 94.
Let's go see. I can already.
I have two, so I actually have an extra one. Does anyone want one?
Are we gonna be under the train? You're walking into the lower speeding range. It's a pretty.
I know. There's a shorter.
So proud, I bet. I just like think it's cool that it's getting dark out. What she does. Or she might just watch you.
Oh, so Irma said that the last email that you were gonna present RPM.
Just like.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And then
That's all
just
you need to
describe
do.
what's on the picture. And I think
Back, sorry for the extra delay. I guess we're returning with the CDOT presentation, right?
Yes. Okay, so I will walk you through the accessible route on the Damon Green Line Station, which is at Damon and Lake Street. So the station has a station house on the south side of the tracks, west side of Damon Avenue, south side of Lake Street. There is a station house elevator attached to that station house. And there is a bridge that goes over the tracks and connects to the North Tower elevator, which is on the north side of the tracks for the outbound platform. The station house is where the only staffed entrance is to the station. There are two actual entrances. There's the day-to-day entrance, which will be open whenever the train is operating at the south end of the station house. You can see that indicated with a red arrow. There is also, because this is adjacent to the United Center, there is a surge entrance for very high traffic situations when the United Center gets out for an event. That's at the north side of the station house. And they both come in off of the east. Go to the next. And I will walk through the there you go. Accessible route to the, so I'll walk through the accessible route to the inbound platform, which is the south side of the tracks. If you come in to the primary entrance, you come in, go through the turnstiles, you turn to the north, and you can take that station house elevator up to the platform level, which is level 2. And that's where you have direct access from there to the inbound platform, which is on that same level. It's pretty simple. There's not much to it. It's one elevator ride up from ground level to second level. And that's about it. The surge entrance, which comes from the north, has a shorter path, but you use the same elevator. You come in from the north and turn into the elevator going south. So simple path there. The outbound side, similar at the start, where from the main entrance you come in, you go through the turnstiles, you head north to that station house elevator. In this case, you take it up to the 3rd level, which is the bridge that goes over the tracks. You leave the station house elevator, go over the bridge to the north, get into the North Tower elevator, go down 1 level to the station, or to the platform level, sorry, at level 2, and then you can access the outbound platform, which is on the north side of the tracks. So again, a very straightforward path. We did talk about benches for stations in general.
There was a question about benches here, so we identified those. This is a plan view of the station house at the bottom, or plan south, and the platforms. There are 4 benches total, 2 on the inbound platform, 2 on the outbound platform, and they're spaced about equidistant between the access points to those platforms and the east and west ends. So there's one to the east, one to the west, about equidistant between the entrance to the platform and the stairs at the very end. And we just included a couple of renderings of the station. It is well under construction, targeting completion later this year. But these are more interesting than the under construction photos at the moment. But here you can see the station house that is at the south side of the tracks, the green bridge that goes over between the station house elevator at the south and the North Tower elevator on the other side of the tracks. And then the platforms running east and west. And finally, there is a platform view from, this is the inbound platform looking to the west. You can see the station house on the left-hand side of the view and the bridge that runs across above platform level that connects those 2 sides. That's any questions about access, travel?
Can you go back 1 picture? So I don't know if you can see where you enter the building, wheelchair access. Right in that, right when you walk in.
Yeah,
that's where the.
Yeah, there's only one set of doors. And that's the same.
It's laid straight out.
Straight out.
Basically, I would turn right.
Yep.
Go through the gate with my pass and head straight to the elevator.
Straight to the elevator.
Right next to the customer agent's booth, and then you just go straight all the way to the end. We try to organize the footprint of the station for minimal obstacles. So you just go a straight line to the elevator.
Yeah.
That's what.
And then you go.
For blind people.
Yeah, and then you go all the way up to platform level, same thing, unobstructed, and into the platform.
Okay, thank you.
Public comments can please be reserved in the comment section.
Any other questions?
Questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, okay.
So next is the State Lake Loop elevated station. We teamed up with world-renowned architectural firm SOM and Trans Systems to do the design. And Mike Lev from Trans Systems and Kelly Pledger will go over the presentation.
Thanks, Rajiv. So the image that you're seeing on the screen right now is a rendering of platform level. This is on sort of the outer loop platform, the center area of the platform where the fare array is. And you can see there's a large glass canopy over the new proposed station. So you can go to the next slide. So this is a plan of street level. You can see that this is at the intersection of State Street and Lake Street. There are 2 new elevators proposed here. You can see them highlighted in blue. One at the northwest corner of State and Lake and one at the southwest corner of State and Lake. And these elevators go between street level directly up to platform level. Next slide. So this is a plan view of platform level, showing sort of the center area. So the accessible route would take passengers directly from that street level up into the center area of the platform in the unpaid area. The fare array is located right in the center of that oval shaped area of the platform. You'd progress through that fare array onto the platform directly. There is also a flyover bridge to allow for transfers between the outer loop platform and the inner loop platform. In order to reach that flyover bridge, Passengers would progress to the west, and you can see that there are 2 elevators, one on each platform. And they would get in there and go up 1 level to that flyover bridge and just progress over and then go down another level in that elevator to get to the other side. Next slide. There is a nearby Red Line subway station. The accessible transfer between these stations would be accomplished via the existing elevator going down to street level, progressing down south on State Street. And there is a new elevator on the west side of State Street within the sidewalk that takes passengers down to the subway. Next slide. So that elevator leads down to a mezzanine level. This is an existing mezzanine. Passengers would progress through the hallway and through the fare array located at the center of the station mezzanine. After going past the fare array, there's a brand new hallway that leads passengers to the new elevator all the way at the south. And that mezzanine to platform elevator takes them all the way down to the platform level that you can see on the right here. Next slide. Mike, do you want to cover this or should we?
Yeah, you should skip this one. The one that's farther in is correct.
We can go next slide. So back to the elevated station at Staten Lake, we wanted to show what some of the benches look like. So what you're seeing here is a bench with wood slats. It has a back on it as well. And then the next slide is going to show you some of the locations. So this first slide is showing the locations for those benches on the outer loop platform, and they are located sort of towards the front of the train. And the next slide. So then on the inner loop platform, same thing mirrored, the benches are located towards the front of the train. Next slide.
So as Kelly mentioned, I will cover the schedule. There's a lot of text, but the real thing that's important here is that construction is likely to start in 2025. And then the station will be closed for 3 years while it's under construction. I should say the elevated State Lake station will be closed for 3 years. The subway station will actually be open during that period of time. And work will start at street level and kind of work up. Next slide. As I mentioned, the elevated station will be closed for 3 years. The CTA has identified that the Washington Wabash station and the southern entrance to the Lake Red Line station are the nearest accessible stations. And we'll be signing that as the transfer location and as the alternate station that people should be using during when it's under construction. There will be some traffic impacts as well, but sidewalks will remain open for access. Next slide. And then just in terms of staging, this graphic, which is really probably too detailed for this audience, but kind of shows the progression of work. Again, going from demolition foundations up to the station. We assume that the work to modify the Lake Subway station will occur during the middle year of 3 years. And then final closeout and station opening approximately 3 years later. I think that's the last slide.
Are there questions? The elevators, you guys? Questions? Oh. No, I mean, I have one question, although, is there anyone left from CDOT or did the person from CDOT have to?
She left. The design team still on the
Okay. I mean, one question, but one of the questions I have is just in terms of ASAP and making sure that the intersections and the sidewalks are accessible to get to all of these stations. I realize CTA cannot control all of that, but if it can be communicated, that is, that's come up a lot in this committee because there is no equivalent CDOT committee, but that it is extremely important that folks be able to get, and there's a whole, that their path of travel is accessible. you know, that means APS, that means everything. And so I think making sure that if that can be communicated. I am also curious about like the extent to which the transfer, the double elevators, what happens, if one elevator goes down? How folks are expected to transfer? But I do want to be mindful of time, but it seems like that will create a lot of issues.
Mike? Can you talk, I think there is a bit of streetscape work that's happening as part of the project. So not going too far in detail, but I think there's more work than just the station itself.
So I think there were two questions. So let me deal with what's happening with accessible route of travel. Most of the sidewalks for about a block outside of the intersection of State and Lake are either being replaced or rehabbed. And the project will include putting in totally new ADA curb ramps at the intersection of State and Lake, as well as pedestrian refuge islands on the north and south sides to make crossing the street easier. And the crossings themselves will get shorter because we're putting in some bump outs. So in terms of accessibility, definitely within the vicinity of the station, we're ensuring that there's an adequate accessible route. You know, obviously it's a big city, right? We're not going blocks and blocks away. In terms of the question about what if subway elevators go down or what about redundancy? So let me start with the elevated station. The way this is set up, because there's a transfer bridge, there's built-in because there is a transfer bridge, there's built-in redundancy that if any one elevator goes out, there is either a 2 or 3 elevator ride that can replace it. So there's backup in that respect. That say the south elevator here went down, you could use the north elevator and then take the transfer bridge to the south platform, and that would provide backup. In terms of the subway station, the Lake Red Line station is actually already an accessible station. However, it's the southern mezzanine that has the elevator, or elevators, plural. So we are actually upgrading the north mezzanine. So we're creating redundancy at that station. So if an elevator went down at that station, then you could use the alternative entrance to get there.
Thank you. I guess I will still express concern about multiple transfers with elevators. I think it's a lot more complicated and difficult for disabled people than maybe it is always appreciated, but we don't have time for that. But I just wanted to make that comment. Any other questions? Thank you so much. And thank you so much, online too. Next we have Better Streets for Buses, Molly Poppy. Yeah, look at that.
Great. I'm Molly Poppy, Chief Planning and Innovation Officer for CTA. I'm joined by Jason Wald on my team. Jason, I'll introduce you.
Hi, everyone. Jason Wald, Bus Strategic Planning, young 30s, cis white male, wearing a white shirt and a green short coat.
And then I also am joined by Bradley Huff. He is the CDOT Complete Streets Planning Manager. Brad, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Excuse me. As Molly said, Brad Huff from CDOT. I work on our Complete Streets team where I manage planning for our group. I am a white male in my 30s. Very little hair on the top of my head, as you can see. I'm here in our CDOT office. Got a white and navy blue check shirt.
So I'm going to run through this slide pretty quickly, this deck. We wanted to provide a quick overview of the Better Streets for Bus framework. The Better Streets for Bus framework is a citywide framework to guide how CTA and CDOT are utilizing street infrastructure to achieve faster or more reliable bus service. It also deals with improving access to bus stops and what we would describe as better bus stops. The scope of the Better Streets for Bus plan does have overlap between CTA and CDOT, and what I would say is between a host of other work that CTA and CDOT do. So as we talk about this framework, always think about it as this is a framework for how we improve buses, but there's always other work happening. There's other projects, other work that is underway that may not fall directly under Better Streets for Buses, but does improve bus service. I think this is just a really compelling slide to point out of why we created the plan. So when you look at the accessibility, not just from an accessibility, as we talk about ADA, but as an accessibility for all Chicagoans, bus just really does provide that essential connection for many Chicagoans. There's so many more access to service on bus than there is on rail. On the left-hand side, you can see the number of individuals that would live within a half mile of rail, where when you expand that to the number of individuals who live within a half mile of bus, it grows exponentially. And just why we created this plan, I think it's important to point out that buses in our bus service is affordable, it is accessible, and it is everywhere. But it is also slow from time to time. It is also can be unreliable, and it can be uncomfortable. And we mean uncomfortable in the sense of, you can sit at a light for a long time, you can have crowded buses, and all of that can make it uncomfortable. And I would say, it's really unique in the sense of the accessibility components of it. We also know that there is more work that needs to be done around bus stop accessibility, which we are great partners with CDOT on. But that's really why we created the plan. We wanted to capitalize on what we think is really good, but also address what we know are the challenges around bus service. So just really quickly about who's involved in Better Streets for Bus. This framework was developed with CTA and CDOT as a joint project, but there was a strong emphasis on public outreach. We've done a lot of analysis on our data, but we also wanted to understand how do our riders, how do Chicagoans experience the bus, and what is the feedback that they have. So specific to the accessibility community, and you can see here, we have our Irma and Jason, an example of some of the outreach that they did. We coordinated with MOPD, the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, Access Living, and others to do some outreach around Better Streets for Bus. And I would note, we did want to do more in-person events. It's just unfortunately this sort of came out during COVID, and we started working on this during COVID. So we did have to pivot a little bit and have a little bit more interactive online engagement, but we did also have these in-person events that you see here with Irma and Jason with our community bus, talking to riders, understanding what are the type of things that they want to see. How do we also try to address these concerns that people have, and what are the investments that they want to see? And I want to especially point out Laura, the chairman of the committee, also did serve in the project advisory committee. And so we did provide a host of different channels for feedback, and something that we want to continue to replicate of how do we continue to get feedback from our riders. Very quickly, there are two main components of the Better Streets for Bus plan. There's the network of corridors. So it's a citywide identification of 17 corridors to focus bus priority infrastructure on. Again, those are not the only 17 bus corridors that we will work on. There are over 100 bus routes that serve throughout the city. And so as we talk about these corridors, these are some of the corridors that we're focused on, but it doesn't mean that we're not looking at bus priority treatments in other areas or other investments. And then there's also the toolbox of street treatments, which I'll talk about in a second. So just really quickly on the corridors. This is the map here of the 17 corridors. That was 185 miles of streets. And so these were chosen based on public feedback. We did some also analysis on ridership, on usage, as well as equity considerations. And that is how we came up with these. And we're working on a grant fund with CDOT and Cook County to identify the corridors that we want to initially start addressing with various treatments for more infrastructure investments. And the type of treatments that we would undertake, this toolbox, this was also developed with both analysis and impact from rider feedback. There's sort of three categories of this treatment. There's bus stop treatments, there's bus-friendly streets, and there's bus-friendly intersections. What I would say on the bus stop treatments is this is really about accessible pedestrian facilities. How do you improve not just at the bus stop, but also how do you improve the nearby sidewalks and crosswalks? I think that's something, Laura, that you touched on as it relates to the rail work, but very similarly for bus, that's also something that we think about as well. We also are working on level or near level boarding. It's critically important to us, and how do we reduce that conflict with driveways, things like that, that can impact both the ability for an operator to properly berth at a bus stop, but also impact a rider's ability to actually get to the bus stop. On the bus-friendly streets, we have a couple examples here of different types of treatments you could see with this Better Streets or Bus framework. So you have curbside bus lanes, you've got bus stop bump outs, you also have far side bus stops. All of this is designed to make the bus flow smoother through traffic, make it a better experience for our riders. And then lastly, on the intersection side, this has a lot more to do with both technology and also sort of how you place different bus stops, but especially for us, as we think about the bus-friendly intersections, that is TSP, transit signal prioritization, that is queue jumps that would put us ahead of traffic, vehicle traffic. So those are some of the things that will come with these treatments and the work that we're doing with CDOT and with Cook County, the investment that Cook County is giving us. We're taking the corridors that we've identified, we're reviewing those corridors and understanding what toolbox of treatment do we need to apply here? Is it TSP? Would that be the most efficient? Is it dedicated bus lanes? What is it that would really help to drive a better street for our bus? And I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Jason, you should have told me to scroll ahead. So this is the just sort of next steps here. I ran through this very quickly, so I do want to give Brad and Jason a chance if there's anything that I missed. They've been working on this for far longer than I have, so I also don't want to take away their thunder. So Brad, I don't know if you have anything to add on to the Better Streets or Bus framework.
Just a little bit, but Molly, you did a great job. I'll just kind of highlight the way we're thinking about buses. It's really from three kind of aspects, and it's about, and Molly, you kind of hit on this a little bit, but it's about getting to the bus, it's about waiting for the bus, and then it's about that actual trip on the bus. And so all three of those aspects we're really looking about and looking to improve throughout this effort, but also all of our projects as well. And then, another thing I'll emphasize, while, this project or this effort really focuses on a really select group of routes, I think it's important to highlight that these are not the only routes that we are making improvements on. Year over year, we're finding more ways to make more improvements for people walking, for people riding the bus, through existing programs that we already have. So things like our arterial resurfacing program, we're doing more and more each year in that ongoing program to add things like bus bulbs, to add short stretches of bus lanes and ways to get through more congested intersections. We're always coordinating with folks at CTA in terms of changes to stop placement for a little more efficient operations. So while this is a really great kind of concentrated effort between our two agencies, we're really taking every opportunity we can to improve, getting to the bus, waiting for the bus, and also how the bus operates.
No, that.
Wonderful. All right, any questions from we'll be taking just one question, so.
I just have one, and it's something I've been wondering since I moved here in Chicago. Why is the bus don't have priorities? Why don't you have a little sign in the back of the bus saying bus have priority like school bus does have? And I'm wondering at the policy level, but in city I'm from, you are not allowed to cut the bus. If the bus is starting, you're not allowed to pass him. If you're next to him, he has priority. It's a driver behavior thing, and I'm always surprised. So I'm wondering, why don't you have that little level of also education of priority for the buses?
Yeah, and I think, the framework is really, the Better Streets for Us framework is really important for that, because what helps to show drivers that it's a priority is the street infrastructure, is seeing that there's dedicated bus lanes, is seeing the investment from the city in bus infrastructure. So I think, what we're really trying to drive with the Better Streets for Bus program between CDOT and CTA is really demonstrating this is the priority. You need to give priority to bus. And, with the Complete Streets program, and I'm kind of probably stealing Brad's thunder a little bit, that part of what that has to be is about pedestrians as well, and other road users, and how do you think about how all those road users interact? And so, really the Better Streets for Bus plan does play, just work nicely with some of the Complete Streets work that's happening, and how do you make sure you have a safe operating environment for everyone that does prioritize the modes. And I think what we've heard from the mayor is bus priority, pedestrian, and infrastructure is a priority.
All right, great. Tight on time. Thank you, Ollie, Brad, everyone online. Look forward to continued collaboration on this. So next up is accessibility in the DNC, presented by Robert Jones, Accessibility Advisor for the DNC.
Thank you. So we're a little bit of different hat here with you today than I have in the past. Hopefully, so I'm just going to talk through a little bit. My focus here is not on all things accessible for the DNC. It's mostly on transportation, obviously, given that what your role and your things are. I'm happy to talk to you about other accessibility issues, because of course, this is just one in the bucket of multiple things about that. But let's see if I can get myself to advance. I advance. Seeing.
1 second.
Oh, I need to share screen. Sorry about that.
That's okay. And then.
Yeah, okay, scroll. Thank you. Okay. All right. So just to note that the convention is being held August 19th through the 22nd of this year. And just as a little side note, it will be 1 year on the 11th that Chicago was selected as the host city. So we'll be doing DNCC will be doing a big celebration to mark that 1 year mark on the 11th. So we're just about there. Of course, we sold Chicago as being the, accessible city that it is. All our venues, deep dish pizza, other things that, were kind of made Chicago as an attractive. We were really up against numerous other cities, large cities like Atlanta, et cetera, for the convention. So everyone was proud that Chicago made it there. Just want to give you a little layout of what's happening that week, just from a concept perspective, so you understand. So majority of people will be coming in on the Saturday, the 17th. The delegates, that's the kind of the main group that we're working with and concerned about, even though I understand that there will be over 60,000 people that will be attending the convention. There's the 5,800 that are the delegates that come from each of the states, territories, et cetera, of the United States. They are primarily coming in on Saturday. They have some meetings held on that Saturday. The majority of things, the caucuses start on Sunday. We know that there are people who will make Chicago a vacation and might come earlier with their families and things of that nature, and such too. But that's what we're anticipating is the major travel days. Then on Monday through Thursday will be the events themselves, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning and ending at about 11 o'clock at the United Center will be the end. And then, of course, we know there are a lot of after parties that various delegations and stuff will be hosting as well. But our DNCC once they leave the United Center, that's our responsibility is over at that point. And then pretty much everybody starts leaving on Friday. But again, if people are making Chicago a destination for the convention, they may stay through the weekend. So it just will depend on what people's schedules and things are. But we're seeing our heaviest travel days as being Saturday and Saturday, the next Friday, Saturday. Those are our big travel days that we will be focusing on then. So just give you kind of the footprint idea. We will be using the McCormick Place during the day, starting at approximately 7. Well, the delegations will have their breakfasts at their hotels about 7 in the morning. They will then board buses to go to the McCormick Place. And then they will be at McCormick Place until approximately 3 in the afternoon, where they'll have a choice to go back to their hotels or go directly over to the United Center. The United Center doors will open for official delegate business at about 5 o'clock. But we know people like to get there early, like to get settled in, like to eat, do whatever. So some people will come probably directly from the McCormick Place to United Center. Others might go back to their hotels and go from the hotels to United Center. But that's kind of the flow of traffic. And then there's 44 hotels total, just as an FYI, being used in Chicago for the convention. 8 of which are the delegate hotels, which are the main people who are doing active or in the convention itself. The rest are between press, politicos, and allies. Okay, so they're using the rest of those hotel rooms. All of the delegate hotels are in the downtown River North area. So basically stretching along State Street, Mag Mile, et cetera. So they're pretty concentrated along there. So it's kind of like, as you can see by my visual here, is a kind of a triangle that forms with the United Center, downtown hotels, and McCormick Place. So that's kind of the way. And we will be having shuttles about every 15 to 20 minutes going from the venues. So they'll go to each hotel and then to McCormick Place and then to United Center. So the United Center will only be after 3 o'clock p.m. There will not be any other travel to the United Center until starting at 3 p.m. Everything will be hotels to McCormick Place back to hotels or to the United Center. Basically what we're looking at this point. Again, McCormick Place, many are probably familiar with it. We're using the west, which is the newest section of McCormick Place. This is where the caucus meetings will take place. All of the caucuses that are associated with the Democratic Party will be taking place. The small meetings, there also will be a large kind of, we're using the second floor, if you're familiar at all with that building. The second floor is a very large exhibit space kind of a thing. If you've ever been to the car shows and stuff, you're familiar with that kind of space. That will be a very large exhibit space of everything Democratic. So vendors and stuff who are trying to sell parties stuff for their, for their promotions, candidates, et cetera, that will kind of be a big vendor fair, I guess I want to say. But the first floor is primarily where we'll be having all of the meetings. There are some larger groups. All the caucuses are different size. So the larger caucuses will be meeting on the 3rd floor. So people will primarily be going up and down through the elevators and or the escalators that are available inside that building. The United Center, we're all familiar with it. If you've gone to a concert, a game, or whatever else might have been there, obviously it's known as one of the largest convention centers in the, arenas in the United States. There is a lot of facilities there. This is where everything will be kind of managed in regards to press. All the staging of vehicles and everything of that nature will all be happening at the United Center. And again, we don't know yet what First Amendment activity will look like because that's being controlled by the city and by the police and the Secret Service. So we don't yet know what the First Amendment rights footprint is going to look like for that as far as that goes. But the United Center will be where the activities of the actual convention itself, where the election of election of the president, vice president, all the speeches and stuff will all happen. The things you see on TV, I guess, will all be happening at the United Center. All right, so just from things to expect, I just gave some highlights here. Accessibility, it's been a really major process. Of course, obviously they've put my position in place. All of the hotels that have been selected based on their accessibility. They're not all perfect, but we're working with them. Some of the things we're working with them on are things like bed height and stuff of that nature, which is a real chronic problem, which are not really driven by the standards for accessibility and are things that we have to work with them on. Communication is another thing that we're working with them a lot on, especially for deaf and hard of hearing. If I want to get room service, if I want to get, my feather pillow or, those kinds of things. So definitely working with them on those things. Obviously, the convention center, McCormick Space is, accessible. There's concerns there. If any of you've ever been there and used it, that, there's a food court, there's a very large kind of bridge that goes across the hotels and stuff, which is very problematic in regards to its slope and things of that nature. So we're addressing and looking at what we can do for those things, providing people scooters and other kinds of options, tons of volunteers to help people get from point A to B, finding, et cetera, be part of that as well. And then again, the United Center, we're basically using all of the United Center. We're building out the United Center. Basically, everything that you think about inside the United Center is taking away, gone. Everything you think that Cox Bulls or, Blackhawks or that won't even be there. That will all be built out specifically just for the convention. So there will be a stage, there will be all kinds of things that are built just for the convention. And then they will be, of course, ripped out. The goal of this particular convention, which has not been in previous conventions, that every delegate will sit with their own delegation. In the past, people with disabilities and wheelchair success were relegated to wheelchair seating and were not often able to sit with their delegation with Wisconsin, Illinois, whatever. In the design that we're using for this particular convention, people will be able to sit with their convention partners. That has some pros and cons because you've got, situations during the convention where people stand up and cheer and stuff of that nature. And if I'm on the floor and I'm, sitting with my delegate and not up on one of the tiers, I can have blocked line of sight. So we're trying to also look at how we're going to deal with that. There will be cameras and screens and everything all over the place too, but it is, it does have there's pros and cons in some of this. Housing, again, as I said, the hotels, we're working with them for accessibility, transportation. So this is our biggest quagmire because we have this thing called 94 construction, Kennedy Expressway construction. So the ideal would be to run shuttle buses back and forth from the, airports to, the hotels to downtown, et cetera, like that. With the construction happening, it's so unpredictable. There's just no way that we can run and know that buses would run on a 2-hour schedule or a 1-hour schedule or whatever else that might be. And so, given that Chicago has a robust transportation system, i.e. the CTA, we are basically going to be relying on the CTA to get people from the airports to downtown. So people will be filtered onto the train system at both Midway and O'Hare. And they will be taking the train to Clark and Lake Street. Clark and Lake Street will be our staging area for our shuttle buses that will be designated for the various hotels. So people will get off there, load onto a shuttle bus, and then go to their respective hotels from that area. And that's really going to be the quickest way for us to get people back and forth from the airports in any kind of a reasonable way. Shuttle buses, and then from the convention centers and to the McCormick Place, et cetera, all will be by shuttle bus as well. So from our transportation perspective, we are, again, using Chicago CTA for this, the trains. We have finished our RFP process for all of our buses, et cetera. The RFP required all vehicles to be accessible, not 5%, not 10%, not 15%, not whatever, but all vehicles being accessible. And we are currently in the process of working with the CTA and the FTA for a waiver program for being able to use the CTA buses as one of our primary modes of transportation, given the robust system we have here in Chicago. So it's about, at the current scope out, it's around 80% CTA, about 20%, 25% will be private shuttles, shuttle buses, et cetera. We also have an additional 10 vans that are accessible that are part of our RFP process also, because we recognize there will be some people who cannot use the public transportation system, who cannot use a shuttle bus, et cetera, for different reasons related to their accessibility. So we will have 10 vans that will also be on call to be able to shuttle people as necessary to the various areas that will need to be, they'll be running on a regular on-call type of scheduling basis that will be working out. Obviously, we know that we can't force people to use the public transportation system. We can't force them to use our shuttle system. That's what we're offering them. We know that people will make their own choices, especially that other 40-some thousand people that are not delegates, who will be using everything from rideshare to Uber, rideshare or taxis, et cetera. So we are working also with the various Uber, Lyft, et cetera, to see what we can do to try to increase the availability of accessible vehicles in those systems so that people have a positive experience when they're here in Chicago and access the taxis or the rideshare services and need accessibility. Hopefully, some of this will have a legacy for Chicago after the convention if we can make an impact and get some firmer commitments from these entities to increase their accessibility. That's the goal. Again, from a facilities perspective, we're obviously very focused on the cleanliness of facilities that people are going to be using, including elevators. There's a lot of concern by the disability community about how elevators are used as urinals. And this is not what we want to show to the public when they're coming here to Chicago and taking our various public transit facilities. This happens across the country. Signage is going to be particularly important. These are people who don't know Chicago. They don't know our systems. They're coming cold turkey. So as much as signage can be, easily read, easily accessed, et cetera, that's really going to be a attention for us. And then, of course, path of travel to and from buses and train stops, for where people are going, whether it's in the downtown area. We also know that a lot of people travel here with their families and friends. And while their delegate member is at the convention, their families and friends are off traveling and sightseeing here in Chicago, et cetera. So we know that there's a lot of additional traffic that won't just be the delegate people who come, but it's those people who come with them and travel here with them that will also be using our facilities. And we assume that they're going to, take advantage of our various attractions here in Chicago. We're looking at, gap fillers availability, where are they, needed, readily available to people? Are they going to know how to ask for one? If you're not from here, you don't know you need a gap filler at certain thing, how are we going to make sure people have that information? So using a lot of this FAQs that you have already, but also building out and linking FAQs so that we have it in multimodal ways for people to get that information and what they actually have to need. And then, of course, we're going to be obviously concerned about working condition of elevators and, things at all the stops. One down elevator will, huge kink in the whole process for people to move around, as everyone already knows. So, and then volunteers are going to be huge. To this, we're recruiting 15,000 volunteers. A huge number of those will be for transportation and other kinds of wayfinding and other assistance for people who are here. We'll be stationing volunteers at every hotel. We'll be stationing volunteers at the airports. We'll be stationing volunteers at the McCormick Place and at United Center. So if anyone knows anybody who's interested in volunteering for the convention, please have them sign up. We will be providing accommodations for people who need them. There's so many jobs that can be done as part of the convention that having a disability or limitation of some type doesn't preclude you from being able to be a volunteer and being part of it. We'll be able to match you with what works. So we would hope that people would help us get the word out there. Would love to see a good cadre of people volunteering for the convention. So please do that. It's at chicago2024.org under Get Involved. There's a volunteer form to fill out. So just from timelines, April, we finalized our RFP contracts and everything for our vendors, working with the CTA FTA waiver at this time. In May, we do have a new position that will be coming on. Will be working with me, which will be an accessible transportation specialist. So anybody knows somebody that might be interested in doing that and has some skills and some knowledge of the transportation systems, please have them get in contact with me so I can make sure that they get information about that when we put the job announcement out, because I'd love to see somebody come on board that is well-versed in transportation, can really help with this transportation issue because it's so huge, so big. That person will start in June, work June, July, and August, the contractual position for this job. We will be identifying all the needs of our delegates by the end of June. As you may know, we don't identify who a delegate is until the elections are over and all of the ballots have been certified and elections certified in various states. They then elect their delegates. We then get information about who those delegates are going to be. That's when we'll start gathering the information about accessibility needs, accommodations, et cetera. So I'm not going to actually know how many of this, that, or another until probably the end of June at the earliest. And we expect that people will be changing all the way up until the convention for whatever. In July, we will be communicating with them to finalize their needs. We'll be building out further that FAQ on the website regarding accessibility and such of that nature. There won't be an app There will just be the website, which will be mobile friendly for people to use for FHU kinds of stuff. And then, of course, we have the convention, which will be the combination of things. So anyway, again, we're looking for volunteers, vendors also. If you know people who provide disability related services and things, or who are a small business person with a disability who would like to do business with the convention, please make sure that they sign up for the vendor on the vendor form, because this is where not only is the convention using it, but all the delegates and stuff are using these vendor directories for their own events and activities, because they host a whole lot of things in the city and do things that are outside of us, but they need to know who to go to because they're not from here. So these are opportunities for people if they own a restaurant or they sell a business or they have medical equipment or whatever else they might have, or they're a sign language interpreter or real-time captioner, whatever. Make sure that they get into the vendor, please. And then if you're interested in staying up to date of things, we have tons of social media. Been working hard at making sure that it's accessible social media. So hopefully, if you are not connected, please get connected and stay tuned on the website. And I'm always available for questions at any time. And there's my email at the convention as well as my phone number. So please give me a call.
Howard Jones at demconvention.com. You said earlier Chicago 2024.org. Is it .com or
No, org. You got two things going on. At the Democratic Convention, which is not a 501c3. Then you have the local committee, which is a 501c3. Local committee handles all vendor and volunteer issues.
So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I know it's extremely confusing. Believe me, I get confused all the time. I wrote org. I'm in the org world, so I wrote org for the longest time and kept getting corrected. So yeah. So you got the two groups. They work side by side, but there's two groups.
I know we're tight on time.
Yeah. Any have questions?
We don't know where to find you.
Yeah, please reach out to me at any time. Send me an email, give me a call. More than happy to call, talk, or anything. And again, if you know anybody who wants to volunteer and get involved in accessibility, et cetera, in the form that comes out, they will be asked what they would like to do and what their interests are, and accessibility will be one of those options. So hopefully, you know, people, there's a lot of other things, so you don't have to do accessibility. There's other stuff if you're on getting other parts of it. Thank you very much.
And it seems like this would be a great time for robust, conversations about having robust wayfinding and CSAs and who can help with, because it seems like that's going to be a big.
It's going to be a huge, because remember, these are all people from out of town, I mean, and the other thing that's going to be huge is, that we're going to have people coming from out of town who do not have public transportation in their geographic areas, who are going to potentially want to use like paratransit or such. And so we're going to be talking to you guys about how we might be able to do that for people who are not certified in their own communities because they don't have it, and what we might be able to do if they do need to use paratransit to get around Chicago, non-delegation activities. Thank you.
Because we are over in time, we unfortunately will need to skip for our signage and wayfinding principles and move it to the July meeting. So do I like going up there like so we will move on to facilitators report.
Yes.
Okay, facilitators report will be presented by Irma Gomez.
So I would like to provide some program updates since the last meeting in January. At the beginning of the year, we installed new shade, and Bachman fare boxes on 100 buses, along with vaulting equipment and the required software at Chicago Garage. The fare boxes have successfully recorded almost 200,000 cash transactions on routes, including number 66 Chicago, number 72 North, and number 65 Grand. We will continue this pilot test through April, and when satisfied that the system is fully functional, we will go back to Chicago Garage to complete the fare box installations. We will then proceed to continue installations at each of the 6 remaining garages. Our goal is to complete the fare box installations by the end of this year. 2 weeks ago, CTA announced that customers will see more scheduled bus services across the system in the coming weeks. On Sunday, March 24th, scheduled service levels on 29 bus routes were restored. The goal was to target a diverse set of bus routes that have recently experienced strong ridership record and provide a critical transit network throughout Chicago. Most of the new service was added during weekdays with additional with additional Saturday service on the number 77 Belmont and number 81 Lawrence routes. The new rail service schedule starts Sunday, April 7th, so yesterday, and will have some immediate improvements, and riders should expect to see gradual increasing service as more operators are added to service in the coming months. The new schedules enable the agency to dynamically add scheduled service to align with the growing rail operator workforce throughout the spring and summer. This is an important step towards CTA achieving its goal of returning scheduled rail service to pre-pandemic levels. To achieve the rail service improvements planned as part of the spring 2024 schedule, CTA is anticipating adding to upwards 50 newly trained rail operators to its network between now and the summer. So far, 67 are currently in training and are expected to begin qualifying for rail operator status over the next 3 months. The first classes of the year have recently completed training. In terms of ridership, we had the highest Saturday ridership since the start of the pandemic, 894,000 rides on St. Patrick's Day River Dive. No surprise. And parade. Are looking forward to more people riding the system as we enter the special event season. For ADA related updates, this past quarter, I conducted 20 new employee disability awareness trainings for bus operators, rail operators, and flaggers, as well as new managers. Also, I attended one bus familiarization tour at GEMS World Academy, where a class of 16 first graders learned about ADA requirements and ADA features on CTA buses. These 16 first graders were very excited to be on a CTA bus and learn about disability awareness and bus etiquette. They all received a Be Safe on CTA workbook. They were very adorable. The addition to GTFS was updated to identify rail stations that are ADA compliant. When the accessible trip option is selected, the accessible rail stations will be listed as part of the trip planning options on Ventra and third-party transit apps. We will report more on this topic at the next ADA advisory meeting in July.
Oh, guys. Thank you, Irma. Does anyone have any old business they would like to bring up?
Story. I just wanted to bring up the minutes from the October meeting. At the last meeting, I had mentioned the correction that needed to be made. It said that I was listed as a participant, but I was not at the meeting. I did get the correction. However, the correction, it did not, I think my name was just removed. I don't remember like how it put it, but it didn't reflect that it was an excused absence. And I know that the participants, I know that we have to, attend a certain percentage of meetings. So I wanted to make sure that that can be corrected. Thanks.
I'll get that correction and send it back to you.
Thank you, Doreen. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to new business. Does anyone have any particular topics or issues added to the July 2024 meeting agenda?
I wanted to find out if we could get an update of the meeting last Friday. It was a voluntary meeting. How that went.
Wait, finding Braille.
Yeah.
I think that was
Stop sign?
The tactile bus signs.
I think in some ways that was the plan, and then we ran out of time.
Yes, we'll have that on the July meeting, Doreen.
Okay.
Thank you, Doreen.
I love to add things, but I know we're tight in time. So anything else? Then the next meeting is Monday, July 8th, 2024 at 1:30. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Barbara, a motion. Do I have a second? Delphine is a second. A vote.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned.